Okay, we can call the meeting to order. I think we're all here. We can stand for the pledge, please. Okay, we have the public forum for the budget 25-26. Presentation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I apologize, the date on this one is incorrect, but I think the next slide will be correct. So, Chris, we can go ahead to that one. Okay, state aid analysis. We've been going through the governor's proposed budget, and we did find an error, and I think I mentioned this perhaps at the last meeting. We saw that there was a negative on our building aid, and we've confirmed with fiscal advisors that that was an error. And again, those are things that get corrected throughout the course of the year. So instead of losing approximately $1.2 million, we will actually be seeing building aid next year of $1.5 million as an increase. So that's a shift of 2.7. When we look at year over year, we are looking at next year totality, all revenue from the state, based on the governor's executive budget, of about a $4.2 million increase. So we are looking at a fairly healthy number that's coming out of the executive budget. We just saw the Assembly and the State Senate last week release their one-house budgets, and one of them, I believe the Assembly was somewhere a little bit north of requesting an extra $600 million over what the executive budget proposed, and the State Senate, I believe, was approximately $1 billion more than what the state budget was proposed by the governor. So once the proverbial 3 people in a room get together to hash out the budget, we again would anticipate that the governor's budget is going to be the floor, and that if the Senate and the Assembly have say in this, which it looks like they'll have considerable say, we should see some more increase too, especially foundation aid and some other aspects that go along with the budget. So again, approximately a $4.2 million increase overall. If we go to our next slide. Oh, sorry, Chris. Talking about the expense side of the house. If we were to take everything that we do from this year and just move it forward, things that we know we need to continue and move those things forward, we're looking at a $1.6 million increase, which is 2.2% budget increase. Each year, we also go to our administrative team and we determine, are there items that we could desperately use or that would make our educational system better? We have narrowed that down. This will change a little bit. Again, keep in mind this is only preliminary. We're looking at somewhere in the $670,000, $690,000 range. And again, this is a draft. We still have some more work to do. So we're looking at approximately $2.2 million, $2.3 million total draft expense increase. And on our next slide. In the first one where I talked about revenue, I'm showing $4.2 million. It's really, when we take out that building aid and we look at everything else that's expenses, our true actual increase next year is $2.7 million. Again, based on the governor's numbers only. And that's without the building aid. Our additional expenses are approximately 2.2 million, 2.3 million, and again, that number's fluid, so we're looking healthy. We're not looking at having to make any cuts, to make any adjustments yet, but again, keep in mind this budget's very fluid. The governor should have we hope to have a budget sometime in early April. The local assembly and senators, they all believe that it's not going to be an on-time budget. So hopefully sometime by mid-April, we'll have our real numbers from the state. Any questions so far? Okay, the last one. There's one township in our school district that, like those of us that live in the town of Potsdam, are seeing a major reeval. And one of the things I wanted to do is to address just some of the ideas that happen when we start talking about what a person, what a family, what a homeowner or a landowner actually pays after a reassessment. And some of this is pretty nebulous because we don't have all the data yet. We don't know, for example, what the full property value is of all properties that reside within our district boundaries. One thing I think we're pretty confident on is what our tax levy will be next year. We are still on target for a 0% increase, which is that $14,831,697 tax levy. What I've done here is I've done a 3-year comparison of what the tax rates have been. And again, I chose just the town of Louisville because, again, 1 or 2 townships in our county that have gone through a full reeval and certainly creating a lot of consternation. The 2 major things that are determining what that actual final tax rate per $1,000 will be are, number 1, what is that township's actual percentage of the overall property value of the entire district. So if you look at the second column where it says full value of the town of Louisville was approximately $212, almost $213 million total value in the year 22-23. That increased to $232,000 in 23-24, and then $255,000 in the year, or $255 million, thank you, in the final year 24-25. The next column shows the overall value of all properties within our school district, and you can see the growth from $880 million to just over $1 billion. Skipping the next one, which is our tax levy, which has remained unchanged. How does that compare to the levy of the town? So again, this is for the town of Louisville only. Because of their value, they actually owned 24.2% of the value. So they were responsible for 24.2% of that $14 million, which is $3,582,452. That year, their equalization rate was 71%, giving us a $23.72 per $1,000 rate. The following year was kind of an anomaly. Their percentage of the overall land value decreased by 0.7%. When that happens, you would think that the tax rate would go down, and it did. But then the equalization rate also decreased by 6 percentage points. Typically, when the equalization rate decreases, your tax per 1,000 should go up. It didn't. It still stayed down. And again, it was really because of that value of the taxable land within the town of Louisville. This current school year, 24-25, the town of Louisville took kind of a double hit. Number 1, their property value actually increased as an overall percentage. It went up 1.2% to 24.7% of the taxable responsibility belonging to the town of Louisville based on their overall value. And at the same time, they also had an equalization rate that dropped down to 60%. Those 2 forces coming together raised their taxes per 1,000 to $23.91. So again, those are the 2 big forces that are going there. And that certainly does not help to ease any of the concerns that the town of Louisville residents are facing. As I share that, being a town of Potsdam resident myself, with a 240% increase on my assessment. So I get where the town of Louisville folks are coming from, but I at least wanted to try to show where the actual bill comes from. How does that get determined? The equalization rate, just so everybody knows, that is not something that the district formulates. That is a number that's given to us from the state of New York. They take a look at what they think the township's overall value should be, what the overall value is according to the town's assessor, and that's where they come up with the equalization rate. So that is completely outside of our control. The only thing that we as a district have control of is what our overall tax levy will be. And again, I'm more than confident that we will be at the same rate that we are now, again, going out with a 0% increase. The other part too is, we hear a lot about school budgets, and how do you come up with it? Is it just simply a rollover from last year? And while there's certainly an element of truth to that, it does not mean that we don't, as at least at the administrative table, take a look at what is it that we are doing. Do we have the proper staffing? And let's be honest, we are an industry that's driven all of our costs, really, more than 70% of our cost is driven by personnel. So if we're going to have meaningful talk about the budget, we have to talk personnel. And again, we don't go right to a zero base, certainly not every year, but we do take a look at, for example, we'll look at across the district in our 3 schools at the elementary level, how many kiddos are in a first grade section. And when you start talking, they all have 19 or 20 or 21, there's no place really there to cut. Okay, so we're not going to cut so we get to 28 and 29 kids. That's not sound education. And that would not be a recommendation that would come from my administrative team or myself. So again, we do take a look at that. We take a look even at the courses at the high school or at the junior high. How full are they? And there are some times, again, full disclosure, there are some times where you could reduce a staff member by 0.2 and bring a staff member to 80%. But the way that our economy is today in terms of human resources, we're not getting teachers to apply. So to suddenly say, we're going to go out and hire an 80% teacher, it's just simply not feasible. So you either go with a 0 or you go with a full-time person. And really those are the things that we look at. When we began our strategic budget, we were well north of $1.5 million in terms of things that, boy, this would be nice. And then what we as a team do is we say, okay, we have nice and we have necessary. And then we have things that, boy, this would really make a difference in the lives of our students. And those are the things that make the final cut. So again, I want to be careful that people don't think we're just constantly moving money over or expenses over, because that's not exactly the way it happens. Questions? Just a couple other things really quick and maybe Trish, actually I'll leave it for Trish. You're going to talk about the lobby day? Okay. Yep. Okay, good.
Okay, so Ron and I attended the lobby day where our 18 component school districts were allowed to speak with representatives who volunteered to come up and speak with us about what our concerns were. So the legislators that were present was Representative Assemblyman 117th Ken Blankenbush, Assemblyman 116th Scott Gray, and our state senator, 49th District, Mark Walczyk. Dan Sek tried to come in via Zoom, but it was unsuccessful, so I'm going to count him as absent. So the topics that we covered were zero-emission bus transition, personal devices in schools, workforce shortages, increased aid ratio for BOCES CTE and staff, and foundation aid. Items that we discussed concerning the buses, there were concerns about the thickness of cement pads in the bus garages because these are significantly more heavy buses, and that if there wasn't sufficient cement pad, they would crack, and we would need to address that. Another item was distance to travel. In our part of New York State, weather is a big factor. And making sure that students are warm enough and able to travel out and back, which also led to the number of bus runs. Some superintendents who did have electric buses were finding that these buses were unable to do multiple runs, so that would influence the fleet size. Also, there's the cost. They're almost 3 times as more expensive than the traditional diesel. Also, the state may not have enough funds to reimburse districts. The life of the buses may fall short. Typically, we tend to trade in our buses and get a certain amount of money back, which helps to offset the costs. But if we bond for 7 years, some are afraid that these won't last that long. The typical theoretical distance is 1% of charge per mile, but that's only in the best of conditions. And then Mr. Blankenbush brought up on YouTube that there were videos of electrical fires on buses and the danger to students that could happen. So that was around the zero-emission buses. The next was personal devices in schools, and it was the consensus of the superintendents that the governor not mandate this, that it should be left to the locals. If it is mandated, we are afraid that it will be an unfunded mandate. So we will be required to buy some sort of device pouch, which right now they're very expensive, and we might not be able to absorb that cost. The superintendents would like to have local control as far as making the blanket statement of having it be a law that they cannot have them out, that was not a good idea. Also, they want to have student engagement. You know, we have an ex officio. The state is talking about making that something that all school boards should have. There should be some sort of input from the students as well. As far as workforce shortage, the topic came up about shifting the reimbursement. With staffing shortages, the CTE reimbursement is a cap at $30,000, and most everybody agreed that that is not enough, that we are in a shortage and we need to at least double that. Some felt like even that wouldn't be enough. There was a brief discussion about regionalization. There was some discussion about utilizing local colleges and having professors there possibly teach specialty courses such as physics, which the smaller school districts, the superintendents were of the mind that they just cannot find people who are certified to do these specialized math and science courses. Tier 6 amendment was also brought up, changes from the 5-year FAS in Tier 6 back to 3-year FAS, as well as age. The SUNY system recruitment of educators is down significantly. Discussion of waivers and alternative pathways was also discussed. Retirement income cap also discussed. No cap on retirees' income to retain and also recruit retirees. There was some discussion about how that would be a savings. Increased aid ratio for BOCES, career technical education, and related staff. Pretty much the consensus was that the 30,000 cap would not work. We cannot find people who are certified and willing to take that kind of a pay. Foundation aids, some of the smaller districts will not be able to operate in the near future if the aid formula is not totally revamped. One assemblyman admitted that even he cannot figure out how to budget with this type of formulation. The superintendents also asked that there not be any more state holidays added to the calendar, as it is difficult enough right now to achieve the 180 days. The superintendents need capital project reimbursement revamp. There was talk about the 4% cap is completely unrealistic, and that moving even to a 10% cap would be a huge help, because we can't project what's going to be coming that far ahead. There was also note that private business usually keeps a reserve of 24 to 25%. Family mobility was also an issue. If a family with many special ed students or students who need special services moves into your district during the school year, the money doesn't move with them. So the district has to absorb those kinds of costs, which is very, well, it's impossible to predict. There was a brief discussion on farm to table, and that there are certain restrictions that the state has that is not friendly to the farm to table model, and that many districts would like to move in this direction, but in some cases it's not feasible. There was also a brief discussion about economics in the districts. There was also a brief discussion about the HALT Act and the corrections officers and the Wildcat strike, and how that was affecting certain students and also staff and faculty who were impacted by that. It was an excellent meeting. There were probably about half of the component 18 districts were represented by some leadership, either superintendents or Board of Education. The unfortunate part is that there were only Republicans present. And as you know, the state is mostly controlled by Democratic parties. So we would like to invite and encourage more of our representatives, no matter what side of the aisle they come from, to come and meet with us. But unfortunately, that wasn't possible. Are there any questions?
I didn't catch.
How relevant this is, but the cell phone issue, the new magazine that we just got, it mentioned that the governor was allocating $13.5 million for couches or whatever for storage. Do we think that's not going to be enough? Or it's not, it's probably just not going to happen?
A little of both
Both.
is basically the consensus that was coming. You know, if it's not mandated, it can be a proposal, and then, you know, is that really going to solve the problem? You know,
Enforcement is the problem.
who is going to do this? How much time is that going to take at the beginning of the school day to make sure that everybody has their cell phones in their pouches? And what do you do with students if they don't conform? You know, the consensus was to leave it at the local level so that your students can be engaged, your faculty, your staff can be engaged, your administration can be engaged, and still you might come up with something that works for your district that might not be a mandate for all districts.
What would work with us would not work in Long Island.
Exactly.
And vice versa. Okay.
You mentioned something about Wildcat at the end?
Yeah, so that was the corrections officers that were striking, that the union hadn't authorized them to strike. That's called a wildcat strike. So there was talk about how that was affecting students whose a parent was part of that, and yeah.
What do you mean, Republican? Where you met with representative of the schools.
Yes, it was at the BOCES Center in Canton.
Why do you say there's Republican? You mean from the state? Only Republicans showed up?
The representatives that came from the state, Blankenbush, Walzek, all of them are all Republicans.
Our area is represented by Republicans right now. That's who's been voted into office, and they're in the minority in Albany. That's the point.
Right, the point is, they're gonna carry our message back to Albany, but if they're a minority voting bloc, unless they can get people to come across the aisle and vote with them, you know, that's how things might go.
With the cell phones real quick, I just want to say I did some quick math. So in a quick Google search, it says that those pouches cost about $30 per student. Multiply that times 2,500 students, that's $62,500 in cell phone pouches for our school district. And divide that by 13.5 million, 216 schools. I just wanted to kind of set the stage for that.
There's more than 700 schools in New York State. We won't have any control of any of this. Okay, communications and any communications, public and press.
Thank you, Trish.
Anybody have any communications or public comment? Good. Okay. No board correspondence that I'm aware of. Okay, information and reports. Reports from board members. Isabel.
Just some updates on what's happening in the school. Spring sports, the season has just started, and currently the musical Legally Blonde is next weekend, so there's a big push to complete that show, and Mr. Lincoln has been great in helping us, and that is all I have for today.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Tusa, facilities.
The Facilities Committee met on February 24th. Ben Maslona met with us to review financials and planning for the next capital project. He offered to be assistance in drafting any resolutions we'll need. It's my understanding, the committee's understanding, that the RFP is ready, and we could be approving a construction manager, conducting interviews, and approving a construction manager as early as mid to late April, it looks like.
And we're going to have a presentation from King and King.
Yes, they are here. It's a few minutes. Yep.
Any questions for facilities? Policy Committee.
Okay. Want me to hit it?
Yeah, if you can figure it out.
Okay. So the policies that we looked at first, policy 1210. So this is regarding updates as a student ex officio is now the law of the land. So that's an update there. 3311, it is now also a law, so that's one that we'll need to be adopting. Policy 5681 is about emergency drills, and that is also new language that's adhering to law from state ed, which requires us to, when we do our drills, they have to be trauma informed. So for example, most folks should have gotten a parent square message yesterday that complies with that law saying we had a drill today, expect the active shooter. It's not anything other than that. Again, we had to include that trauma-informed language on policy 5683. Policy 5840, we had a couple of options that were provided to us from Erie, and we are recommending that you can see in your actual policy that we'd remove, or that we'd go with option number 1. Policy 6550 is for lactation breaks to ensure that we again are complying with New York State law for that paid leave time to provide for that opportunity for nursing mothers. Policy 7720, I'm sorry. Which one? 7220? Yes, I'm sorry.
No, it's 7720.
It is? Okay. Yeah, so it may be, okay, we might just have a typo. We took out the advanced credit and we placed it in policy 7224, so I think, Mr. LeBlanc, you're right, it should be 7220. Again, that's a typo, so. 7223 policy, we're including, it's talking about advanced type programming. We're going to be including the IB program. Policies 7224, 7470 are new policies that need to be adopted per Erie 1. Policy, we did talk about policy 7131. Policy 7131 refers to tuitioning of students, which earlier this year we had eliminated the idea of tuitioning students. However, we've put a proposal on, or I've asked the policy committee to consider a proposal where we would allow students for UPK, and we've talked a little bit about it at this level, that we have pretty much a quota that we have to meet in terms of number of students that are in our UPK program. Otherwise, we lose state funding. Our expenses remain the same, but if we go from 16 students, or I'm sorry, 18 students, which is the max, and that's what we get funded for, if we drop down to even 16 students in the classroom, we lose that per student ratio of that funding. So to have, whether it be employees or other individuals that could come to our UPK program to fill up those spots, it's a financial gain for the district. And then the other group, so we're looking at for employees, the other group would be for our Native American students under our contract with New York State for education of indigenous students. We can only accept K through 12. We've had UPK students request from the St. Regis Mohawk tribe, and we've had to deny them in the past, knowing full well that they're going to come to us in kindergarten. So again, it's a benefit, it's a mutual benefit. We have those students and we get to work with them right from the earliest age all the way through. So, but I have some more information that the policy committee needs to look at before we make it a recommendation. And then policy 3421, this is in regards to DEI. We had some rather urgent information based on some executive orders from Washington that we should probably rescind the most recent policy 3421, which was just adopted last year based on the Biden administration's Title IX rulings. We have sent that back to our attorney for basically a review to give us better advice as to which policy is truly the law of the land today. So we're waiting on that.
Can we consider renaming this thing, not using those words? Keeping the good, renaming it, like, we shouldn't be using those words.
So policy 3421 is really Title IX. And again, because Title IX rules have changed under the Trump administration, and there's some consequences that could go with that eventually. We really have not received guidance from the state yet on this one as to do we need to, but Erie 1 has advised us. So again, we threw it back to the attorney to give us their advice. But in terms of name changes, Actually, if I could pontificate for 30 seconds, okay? When we talk about DEI in our school setting, we're talking about including and respecting every single student that crosses our door. That's it. It's not about politics. And so if we drop DEI in the nomenclature, so be it. But there's not a single individual, I think, that's on the faculty, the staff, even this board, that's not committed to every kid regardless of what they present. So I just want to publicly say, as the leader of this district, the political nonsense isn't going to cross in. We're going to continue to do everything we can to make sure that every one of our 2,500 students is welcome. And there's certainly always opportunity for us to get better at that, but that's our commitment to our kids. We should have nothing less. Soapbox over. I'm good.
Okay, we've already gotten the legislative update from Trish. Reports from administration, Mr. Burke.
Okay, so it's my pleasure tonight to introduce our architectural team representatives, Megan Vanderbrook, who's our really boots on the ground, and also from King & King, Phil Squadrito. And Phil, I can never remember your exact title, but partner, thank you. So they're going to talk to us tonight about the capital project.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us tonight. We're going to walk through the capital presentation. We've been working with the Facilities Committee for the last 10 months or so on this, and there's been a lot of work in identifying scope and what the project is going to be. I know there's a few of you that are on the board that are on that committee, so you can attest to the conversations on every single item that was identified to potentially be part of the scope.
Okay, I just stop you for a second. Chris, we're having a...
Yeah, you need to get
okay.
to the mic.
There we go.
Sorry, I didn't want to stand in front of you.
No, we'll switch that.
All right. Is this better?
Yes.
There you go, thank you.
All right. So anyways, I was saying that we have been working with the Facilities Committee for almost a year now on identifying what the project would be. And if you could switch to the next slide. A little bit hard to see up there, but we landed at a $79.8 million project. And in that project, 92.5% of the funding would come from the state, which is $73.8 million. The other portion of the project, 7.5%, would come from the district's capital reserve that has been set aside for capital projects. So with those dollar values, this project is anticipated to be tax neutral or no new taxes or increase to the district on the project. The project scope is at all 7 of the district buildings, including the high school, the middle school, Jefferson, Madison, Nightingale elementaries, the CAB building, and the transportation center. And now Megan's going to go through each of the buildings and some of the scope at those.
As Phil said, we've been meeting with the Facilities Committee for quite some time, and in that process, we've developed a very extensive list of items that need to be addressed at every building in your district, from your previous BCS, from your staff, and things they've seen, whether it be infrastructure or program needs and wants. We compile them all into a list, and then the committee prioritizes them, and we kind of see how the needs of the district shakes out. And again, the needs at districts are different at every different district, so we come in being completely just to guide the district and what best suits them. So that's how we came to the scope for this capital project. And it was identified that the highest need right now in your district is at the high school building. And the highest need of this building is mechanical upgrades. But first, let's start with the site improvements at the high school. So your turf carpet is getting to its end of its useful life, so that will be replaced in this project just to keep it fresh and safe for all your students and staff. along with track resurfacing and stadium light and speaker replacement and scoreboard replacement. So there's kind of a freshening of your athletic complex at the high school. The building upgrades include wrestling room and auxiliary gym renovations, and those kind of coincide with the women's locker room and pool renovations, because we're looking to improve your access to your pool right now. You kind of cross your auxiliary gym, so we just want to get a more direct access for that, as well as get you better access from your women's locker room to the rest of your athletic facilities in that area. So it's kind of tweaking your auxiliary gym and wrestling room with all those renovations. More secure entrance at your main entrance. Right now, there's no visibility for your office when you come into the vestibule, so putting a window in there so you can see who's coming into your building before they actually get fully into the building. Improvements to your athletic entrance. There's your vestibule doors and storefront is kind of corroded along with the concrete there, so just replacing that and constructing a canopy there to keep the elements off of that. And again, it's just good to have a canopy at your entrances to kind of keep the elements off of people entering your building. Exterior access toilet rooms. So SED doesn't like to aid outbuildings, unfortunately. So to capitalize on your building aid, we're going to carve out space in an interior location of your building to get you toilet rooms that can be accessed from the exterior closer to some of your other athletic fields. And roof replacement. We're budgeting for about half of the building in this project, and we're going to be strategic about those. Obviously, the areas that are in the highest need right now, target those first. Mechanical, electrical, and plumbing upgrades, updating LED lighting throughout. That'll also coincide with ceiling replacement. Boiler conversion, that's going to be the big ticket item in this project, converting your steam to hot water. Along with some air handling unit replacement and adding air conditioning to your media center. Any questions on that scope? I know it was kind of a lot.
Library. Megan? Could, just so, because the public will watch this, I think if we look just at the turf replacement, sometimes people will say that's a nicety. Are we replacing it because it's getting faded? Which it is, but it's more than that. The turf has a life expectancy. That turf field, in particular, one of the first generation for public schools, had a life expectancy of really 10 to 12 years. We're already there, and by the time that this project is actually underway, we put shovels to the ground, we'll be about 3 years beyond that life expectancy. We have to do every year what's called a compression test to make sure that that field is still safe for use by our student athletes. We continue to pass that, but at some point we will fail, and we will not be able to utilize that field any longer. So again, this is not a luxury. If we're to maintain an artificial turf field, it is one of the things we have to do. Similarly with the track resurfacing, I know public voters sometimes get anxious about all the money we spend on athletics, but again, if we're going to have a track, it has to be safe. It has to have the proper material and the proper depth of that material. So again, those are necessities. And as for the boiler conversion, we can hopefully remove with that, we'll be able to take that beautiful pipeline that's running along the ground level, and because we'll be converting to from steam to water, we'll be able to raise that up to the same elevation. You'll still see it, but it will be running across the parking lot basically at the height of the roof lines. So we'll be able to have that access again. So again, I want people to understand that when we talk about this high school work, which is approaching almost $40 million in totality, that these are not luxuries. These are things that we know we have to do. The roof replacement, again, we're only going to be able to replace half because of what our maximum cost allowance is. And I think even that, the roof replacement, we're estimating about 5 to 7 million, somewhere in that area.
Maybe even upwards, yes.
So these are the things, and I think it's just important to kind of go back through. So the public that's watching this, and when I go out for my public presentations, and we'll be having 5, I think, of those here in the near future throughout the community, we'll be talking about why these are necessary, that this is not just to make us look nice, that there's really a reason for all of it. Sorry, Megan.
No, you're 100% right, Mr. Burke, and you guys are doing the right thing of getting these items in line before you reach, critical failure, for lack of a better word. Your roofs are intact right now, but the farther you let them go, you could start to have some severe leaks along with your turf. Again, you're passing your GMAX test right now, but it's getting closer and closer, so you're doing the right thing by putting these replacements in place.
Quick question. What's the blue up there at the top of?
Air conditioning for the media center.
Library.
That's where it sits?
The roofs,
Okay.
for the roofs replacement at the high school, at what point in the warranty are we currently?
I believe you're, if not past your 20-year warranty, very close. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions for the high school scope? All right, moving on to the junior high. The site improvements at the junior high are parking area and drainage reconstruction, some sidewalk improvements. Building upgrades are gym floor refinishing. Roof replacement, we're going to target the entire building at the junior high. Some exterior door replacement, and it's kind of hard to see on the smaller plan, but there's some magenta around the building. I think it's about 10 exterior doors that just have exceeded their useful life and require some replacement. Guidance and main office suite renovations, and that is also to get a more secure entrance and get the right staff near the front of the building. Mechanical, electrical, and plumbing upgrades, again with the LED lighting upgrades in the yellow, along with ceiling replacement, and adding air conditioning to your main assembly areas, the media center, gym, and cafeteria. Again, the high school has the biggest scope of the building, so these other buildings are going to be kind of quick. But any questions on the junior high?
Is that roof in the same position?
Yes, absolutely. Yep. They're both at the end of their warranties.
Do you provide any specifics for where it's at in the warranty? Is it 19 years of the 20, or is it?
I don't have that specifics, but I know.
I'm
Greg-
sorry to poke at you. I'm
Oh,
not on
that's
the
okay.
facilities committee.
Yeah, no, we can certainly get that information to you.
I
Absolutely.
didn't know if there's a way to work with the, whatever, whether it's Carlisle or Firestone, to do remedial work to the roofs instead of a complete replacement to cut some of the costs.
One thing we are planning on doing is also getting a survey of your roofs to get a more in-depth look at the condition of them. So that's certainly a possibility.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely.
So this really is the plan for the worst. So when we talk about this, we're talking about the worst case scenarios that we'd have to replace that entire roof at JW. Once that survey is done, again, we asked the voters to go out for 79.8 million. It's up to 79.8 million. We can't expend more than that. We can certainly expend less than that. I think, Kevin, the answer on the roof question, my understanding is by the time we are shovel ready in 2 full years out, that roof will have got out of its warranty. But
My only practical concern with that is, are we having so many leaks that there's no way we can do warranty work, a warranty extension through the manufacturer's warranty to buy us time instead of complete replacement? That's all I'm trying to generate a discussion on.
No, it's a very valid question, and it's definitely something we can look into further. Absolutely. Anything else for the junior high? Okay. Next up, I think, I can't remember which elementary it is. I want to say Madison. Oh, Jefferson. Okay, so the 3 elementary schools are pretty similar. Jefferson, we're doing some sidewalk reconstruction, some interior finish upgrades in the corridors just to be a little bit sturdier, easier for your maintenance staff to maintain. Some bottle filler station installation, and adding air conditioning to, again, your main assembly spaces, the media center, gym, and cafeteria.
It's both. We say bottle fill because.
Good on that one? Okay, next one. Next up is Madison. No site improvements at this location. Again, interior finish upgrades with bottle filler station installation and air conditioning to the media center, gym, and cafeteria. And then last, elementary, Nightingale. Some fencing construction along your walking trail, sidewalk reconstruction, interior finish upgrades, bottle filler station installation, and air conditioning to your media center, gym, and cafeteria. All right. Next up is the cab building. Roof replacement here as well out of warranty, and storage upgrades. Districts, I feel like every district I've ever worked with could always use more storage. And heating and ventilation upgrades and fire alarm upgrades. Just time for some infrastructure upgrades here. And last but not least, the transportation center, roof replacement, heating and ventilation, electrical infrastructure, and fire alarm upgrades.
Yes.
Is it half the building or?
Half of it, yes, yes.
That's the half?
This is the whole building, yes,
Well-
sorry, but we'll just be focusing on your half of the building.
Thanks.
And on this one, when we talk about the electrical upgrades, we are talking about preparing the bus garage for the EV mandate. And if I'm not mistaken, if my memory serves me correct, because I go to bed thinking about this almost every night, it's about $2.4 million is what we're talking about for the electrical upgrades, just for the electric buses. Now, again, my hope is that we see something happen out of Albany that says we don't need to do that. And again, if that's the case, we won't need to spend that 2.4 mil.
Does MED have the capacity currently there, or do we have to foot the bill for MED to get the juice there? Or is it something they have to do for us?
Or we look at the alternatives?
I'm going to hold off on answering that, Kevin. I'll try to get an answer for you for the next meeting. Mr. McMahon and I have had informal conversations, and I'm not sure if he was just trying to get a reaction out of me or not with his answer, because he certainly got one. So I'm gonna reserve.
So the 2.4 doesn't include the infrastructure to actually up the voltage?
It's just within the building.
Correct.
The transformers into the building.
So one of the things that I'd like to ask is that how would the increased potential capacity affect the power that MED receives from NYPA, and what would it do to every ratepayer in Massena Electric?
So I did ask that question, and I'll get real firm numbers for you, or firmer answers, because that's been my concern with Massena Electric getting the certain allocation of low-cost electricity. Once you get past that, you buy into the incremental power supply. And what Mr. McMahon has indicated is that these buses would be on the chargers. Ideally, he'd like us to put them on the chargers on a timer sometime after 8, possibly 10 p.m., which from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. exactly would be utilizing at the low usage times, which he feels. And again, I don't understand quite that amount. I mean, I haven't been with Rouse's Point Electric a number of years ago. I understand the incremental. What I don't understand is how, if you use the juice on the off hours, how that can help. But he felt that it at least would not necessarily hurt.
Okay, thanks.
All right, and then our last slide focuses on the timeline of the project as a whole. So right now we are in the dark green section. We've made it through the light green part of the pre-ref, and that's all of the committee's efforts up until this point. And right now we're in March, so the seeker and project resolution have been prepared by the legals, or the district's legal and bond counsel, and they should be adopted, I believe, tonight, if not very soon, for the project to be voted in May. And if and when the budget and project pass, then it begins the design phase. We have allotted 11 months of design for the SED submission and 6 months for the SED review. I'm sure you're all aware SED can be kind of volatile, so we're kind of planning for hopefully worst case with 6 months. They have brought back third-party review that has made the queue go down, which is always the intent, so that's a good sign. And putting this out to bid in November, December of '26. Now, with this being quite a large referendum of 79.8, there is a potential of breaking this into phases. Once a construction manager is on board, we'll certainly have those discussions and update you as we get further along with that. Right now, we're allotting 3 years for construction just based on the dollar amount of that. It's a little difficult to get contractors to take on that amount in one phase or even 2 summers. So right now we're allotting 3 years, so with project closeout at the end of 2029.
I'm sorry I missed the last meeting, so I have stupid questions. But on the green section that you showed there, it says that you already interviewed the CM? You didn't interview the CM? You didn't select it? Did you send it in RFP?
Oh, no, we
already?
don't. We are more than happy to assist you. That's just in part of that area, yes. I'm sorry, I should have updated that and put it in the dark green section.
So we didn't do it? Okay.
No, you have not done that. I believe the walkthrough was yesterday?
Yeah, and we had nobody.
Okay.
So what was the date you were anticipating going at? Did I hear April of this year?
For the,
CM?
yes, so hopefully we'll get the RFPs back here the next week or two. Actually, I think next week is the deadline. I'm losing track of my date, so I think it's next week.
Yeah, 28th.
And then the facilities committee will conduct interviews of the CMs that have put in, and we'd like to be able to ideally have the board approve a CM at the April 29th meeting. The rationale being that that's in anticipation that the voters approve the project, so that as soon as that happens, we can get the CM, the architects, the owners all together and really begin that design phase and have the construction manager on the ground right from the get-go, and hopefully avoid that proverbial finger pointing that tends to happen all too quickly and easily.
Okay, I'm good, thanks.
And in fact, when I spoke with our school construction attorney, he was very pleased that we were taking this avenue this time around to have a construction manager on from the very get-go, as opposed to waiting until the design phase was pretty well complete. So, and I think we may have made that mistake once before, Megan, or we're a little bit delayed at my last project.
We see it kind of happen fluidly at all different districts. Some have them on board even during pre-ref, some during design. I personally think you guys are hitting it perfectly. It's good to have them on board right at the get-go, and like you said, then we can just hit the ground running and there's no kind of playing catch-up. But with that, we are happy to assist with the interviews, or we can be outside of it completely. It's completely your choice. Any questions on the timeline or any of the scope that we discussed? All right.
Thanks, Megan.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
The next is I'm going to ask Mrs. Chapman to present on the Raider Academy, please.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing us time to update you on our Raider Academy programs. As many know, we have 2 programs. One is Summer Raider Academy, which is all 3 of our elementaries come to one of our elementary buildings in the summer in July. And then we have Raider Academy, which is an after-school program which takes place at all 3 elementaries and the junior high, and it's on Tuesdays and Thursdays for 2 hours after school. So back in 2021, we started these programs, and we wanted to create it coming out of COVID, making sure that we created time and space for students to get acclimated, to come back into school, improve their academics and their sense of belonging. So in 2021, I had sent out a survey to all staff, parents, and students, and just asking them about what they would like to see to happen during after-school programming. And we developed the mission statement through that survey, and that is to provide a safe place that supports and challenges students to achieve academically, experience enriching activities, and acquire the skills they need to recognize and manage their emotions, feel and show empathy to others, establish positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. So currently, this past summer, we had 241 students enrolled in our Summer Raider Academy. And currently, right now, in our Raider Academy, our after-school program, we have 206 students. Of those students, 66% of our Summer Raider Academy students needed transportation that was provided to them, and currently 57% of our after-school Raider Academy students utilize our busing. So again, like I said, our Summer Raider Academy, that is the month of July. We are in school from Monday to Thursday, 8 to 12 every day. Every day they have a breakfast and a lunch that is provided to them. Our summer goals are to build student belonging and mastery of the priority content. So we want to make sure that the students have what they need when they're going up to the next grade level. Our instructional focus is always reading, writing, math, and STEM. So on the next slide, you'll see that in grades K through 2, our summer structure is that we have hands-on activities to reinforce those skills needed for the next school year. So one of the criteria that I asked the teachers to do is to make it look different than it looked all year, to try to give them, what they need in the month of July to either maintain their skills or enrich them in grades K through 2. We also have them explore STEM activities, and that is through Clarkson University. They come and do lessons Monday through Thursdays also. And also the teachers create amazing STEM lessons. In grades 3 through 6, we do project-based learning. I know in past years you've heard about some of those projects. This past summer in grade 3, in grades 3, 5, and 6, their theme was all about creating and running a business. So in grade 3, it was creating and running a lemonade stand. Grade 5 was food truck. And grade 6 was an amusement park. In grade 4, there were 2 different projects. One was traveling across the country and community service. So that was about our Summer Raider Academy. And then our after-school Raider Academy, the structure is, like I said, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, it's a 2-hour period. The first hour is focused on academic support, and the second hour is on student engagement, and all to improve, certainly, student achievement. So for the first hour, the main focus is to make sure that the students are prepared for the next day, so doing their homework. And then the second criteria that I asked the teachers to do is to create hands-on activities so that the students can practice those skills, but in a hands-on way. So sometimes games or real-world applications. Our second hour is our enrichment hour, where many different things take place, whether that is I have outside agencies coming in, such as Cornell Cooperative Extension. I have written the Alcoa and Arconic grants for Clarkson Mentors to come in for STEM projects. Horizons come in very often. In the spring, Nature Center, they come to each of the elementaries to do different programming. And then I have Kristen Kellogg and Paige Arcette here, and they're going to talk to you briefly about a project that they're doing currently with NYPA.
Hi, I'm Paige Arcette. I'm 6th grade at Jefferson. Thank you for the opportunity for us to share what we've been doing with our 5th and 6th grade Raider Academy students. We're happy to share that we're in our 3rd year with the enrichment program for the Empowered Schools program at NYPA. And we've been using a project-based learning method of teaching and learning to engage our students with an authentic learning opportunity and experience in the science field. First, I'm going to share a brief description of the Empowered Schools initiative and how that supports our students. The program and curriculum begins with training teachers prior to the start of the school year, and as well as continued virtual support throughout the year. This is something that we have done on our own time as we participate in becoming better educators and stewards of energy efficiency. Further, the Empowered School program focuses on integrating STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, English language arts, and math. We integrate the lessons each month into our Raider Academy enrichment time. Throughout the program, the students become ambassadors for energy conservation in their schools, homes, and communities. The program also provides hands-on activities, lessons, and promotes a fostering environment for stewardship, authentic learning, and community engagement.
Last year, our students participated in the Empowered Schools' first annual virtual summit, and they presented their capstone project that was focusing on raising awareness of energy efficiency and ways in which students could take action to help reduce energy costs at school and home. The students were engaged in learning how to do energy audits at our school. They analyzed the school's energy costs by looking at reports provided. They created posters to hang around the school to raise awareness and share ideas. And they also presented all of their learning at the virtual summit as we guided them through the process. The New York Power Authority managers from the environmental department that we work with provided the teachers and the students with ongoing support, everything from technology, monthly meetings with us on our own time, and engagement with local NYPA employees, staff, and volunteers. And they provide everyone with amazing luncheons. That was involved. They have catered Italian affair, and the kids love it, and we all love it. They also planned a very fun and engaging fishing clinic with the New York Power Authority and the Department of Environmental Conservation employees and volunteers. That was held at Hawkins Point last June. And moving forward to what we're doing this year, the students and us we're very excited to continue this authentic learning experience. And we are immersed currently in another capstone project. And the students chose the topic of the emerald ash borer and the environmental and cultural impact that this invasive species has on our local environment, as well as our local indigenous culture. We have invited guest speakers. It's not my area of expertise, so we're all learning. So we have invited guest speakers to come and speak to us and our students.
that are very knowledgeable and working with that topic, and they have supported us and our students in the learning that they have been involved in. We also have recruited some high school students with referred from their science teachers. So this collaboration will be showcased again at this year's Empowered Schools second annual virtual summit on May 28th. And an on-site location this year will be at the Nicandry Nature Center. We extend an invitation to all of you as an audience to come and support and celebrate our students' learning as they share their capstone project. The whole experience engages them in this very amazing learning process from start to finish, and very important lifelong skills that they obtain from it. We are very proud of the learning experience and these enrichment opportunities. The community partnership is continuing to grow and offers continued support for the program. The Raider Academy model has allowed us to maintain this positive learning experience, and project-based learning and enrichment activities has been the most important aspect of this Raider Academy. So, thank you.
Thank you both so much. And as you see, you know, there's great opportunities, and that's just one showcase of that. We also have lists and pictures of so many activities that the students are partaking in, such as arts and crafts, thematic activities, STEM projects, the kids are cooking, and sports, definitely. So through this, I certainly keep evaluating Raider Academy, and one of the ways is I take a look at those students who are in Raider Academy right now. So I took a look at how have they been doing in iReady. So in reading from the fall to the winter of this year, 76% of our students increased their iReady score by 10%. And in math, 83% of our students have increased their score. In the summertime, all students receive progress reports, and for our project-based learning, they all have a rubric that is shared and created before the project begins so that they can certainly self-reflect and assess themselves. I also send out parent surveys to see how they're feeling about the project, and that it happens in January and in May. Just to give you, and I can share all of this with you also, the whole survey and the results, but 90% of the parents or guardians are pleased with Raider Academy, 94% are pleased with the academic activities, 81% feel that their child's academic performance has improved since joining Raider Academy, 94% are pleased with the enrichment activities, and 90% would recommend the Raider Academy to other families. So as far as funding, last year, Raider Academy did go through the strategic budget. We do hire 24 staff members for Raider Academy with stipends of $89,880 and supplies of $10,000. And for Summer Raider Academy, we have 19 teachers and 1 special ed teacher and 4 assistants and 1 nurse. And that is stipends of $62,960 and supplies of $9,000. Any questions?
You had 241 students last summer. Do you know how many you're going to get this year? Do you anticipate an increase or?
Every year we've increased from, I know Raider Academy, when I was looking at it, we had 94 students when we started, and we're at 206 now. Summer Raider Academy, I just was looking at Raider. I didn't look, but I know we've increased over the years. And we have 241 that are enrolled, but we have this great thing called PAL and Summer Rec that certainly take our students when there's great things going on also. So kids come and go, but we've always averaged 200 students a day of Summer Raider Academy. And that's, you know, a great thing that students are given those opportunities in the summer. I do, you know, once it's approved, I would certainly be reaching out to, you know, get the staffing and then reaching out to parents. Usually I do that late April and May to see, have them start signing up for Summer Raider Academy. And
Well, I know I should know this because it's right across the street from my house, but how many days is the summer?
summer's 4 days a week.
It is
And
4
we,
days.
yep, and we go, usually it's the second week of July to the last week, so it's like 16 days, I think we do. Yes,
The hours of that again?
8 to 12. Anybody else?
I just thank you for coming and presenting on this. And you presented some data on academic achievement. I've been able to witness some of the academic achievement in a different form. It's pretty impressive to watch students. You know, if I would go in to pick my daughter up and I'd be standing in the entryway an hour, hour and a half, almost 2 hours after the school day finished. Students are leaving with smiles on their faces. The minute they meet their parent, they're talking about what they had worked on. I've had informal conversations with parents, and more than a few have mentioned how happy they are that their student is getting extra assistance with the homework, especially math. And the kids are engaged, and I think the program is really building their confidence.
Thank you.
And that is such a great thing, and it's so valuable. Once their confidence and their engagement increases, everything else comes along with it. So thank you for all the work you all put into it. I think it's a great program.
Thank you so much for recognizing that. We certainly do have a great team, and thank you for all of your support also.
Danielle?
Yes.
I just have a couple of questions. One is, you gave some statistics, and if you could add those to the slideshow, that would be very helpful, because I was trying to write as quickly as I could, but I
For the
kinda-
survey? You would like to see the survey?
So, first you talked about the younger students with iReady growth, and you had some statistical information on that.
Yes.
I'd like to see that.
Yep.
The project-based learning, I understand that that's more of a survey kind of thing, and I would like to see the parents survey how they feel, et cetera. And then you gave some monetary figures, and I just have a couple of questions for that.
Yes.
So you were saying that the summer program was around $62,000 plus a $9,000 budget. Where does that money come from?
It always came from ARP, but now I have it in the strategic budget because it would come from general fund.
Right.
Yes.
So this was coming from an outside source in its inception, which would have been right after COVID, 2021. And so now we've cycled through all of that. And
Yes.
now, in order to keep it, it's coming out of Massena Central budget taxpayer money.
Yes.
Okay. And then the other one that you were talking about was during the school year, and you said that was approximately $89,000 plus a $10,000 budget. And where does that money come from?
So not this year, but the prior years, it did come from ARP funding, so COVID funding. Last year, I put it in the strategic budget, and it was approved, so it's coming out of Massena Central School District.
So the 24-25 school year was the first year that that money has come out of Massena Central budget?
That is correct.
Excuse me. And then the summer of 2025 will be the first year, excuse me, that it's coming out of Massena Central?
Correct.
Okay. Sorry. I was confused about junior high school.
Yes,
Is junior high school also having Raider Academy?
they do on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay. But I saw that there was something in there about a 3 to 5 program.
3 to 5 program?
Yep. It said there were people who were recommended for employment on our personnel actions that we're going to be voting on, and it said 3 to 5, the high school. Is
Yeah,
that your
that's-
program?
No,
No.
That's a different program?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to make sure that the two things were separate.
yes.
About how many students do you have? You didn't mention on the 7, 8, and do we also have Raider Academy on the 9, 12?
No, we do not on
Okay.
9/12.
So the 7, 8 Raider Academy, what are our numbers looking
So-
like from there?
For 7 and 8, they fluctuate because every morning of Raider Academy, a Google form goes out to their email and they sign up. So it fluctuates between 10 in each grade level, so 20 altogether,
Okay.
to we've had like 35 before. So yeah, it fluctuates
Okay, so what days is it offered at junior high school?
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
It's also Tuesday,
Yes.
Thursday? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Speaking of days.
Yes.
So the elementary is also Tuesday, Thursday?
That is correct.
Is there anything that would prevent you, other than the money, sorry, from doing it Wednesday also, another day? I mean, it seems to be such a well-spoken about program and well-received.
I mean, when we considered it, it was due to funding that
Yeah.
we had the 2 days.
Okay, so it could possibly be if the funds were
If
found, yes.
busing could align and,
Busing and that's right, yes.
yes,
Okay.
that's where we have some difficulty. Our numbers go down significantly when we do not have the busing,
Of course,
yes.
okay. Perhaps something to consider in the
We would
future.
love that, yes.
So you mentioned some private corporation grants and some funding that I'm familiar with. I'm just wondering, have you been able to find success in working in some indirect costs and personnel into any of those grants to help?
I haven't so far, with Arconic, and because of the different things that you have to follow, I haven't yet. If you know of any, we can work together to do that. Because I have no problem with writing grants, so.
I just want to say real quick, I've been asked a number of times, informally, is it a duplicative services offered in this community? And my response is always no. It's an addition, right? So the PAL program, the one thing that lacks is the after-program transportation. And, the PAL program also sometimes shares a lot of the students within the programs. And it's a lot of positive feedback that we also receive. So just kind of wearing another hat at the moment, I can say that it's all an asset to our community, and it's that investment. It's one thing that we talk about, and so there's a lot of partnerships that happen to make this successful and tie the kids back to our community. So
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Joyce, you mentioned the third day, and since I've got 2 teachers here that are part of that program, my only concern with adding a third day is, without talking to our staff, making sure that they would be on board, so that I have to be very protective of them. That a third day, I certainly don't want to promote burnout for them, but again, we'd want to talk to them as well and get their feedback to make sure that we'd be able to maintain the great teachers that we currently have there. And Trish, you asked about the 3 to 5 tutors that you see later on in the personnel agenda. So we've been operating a 3 to 5 program for 9 through 12 for a number of years. And through some of the meetings I've had to have with children, their families, and the staff, there have been a few from the junior high that have been recommended for a 3 to 5 program due to various issues. And that's what that's for, is to bring those students over. They'd be working under the tutelage or under the direction of Mr. Chartrand, but they would be assigned to the 3 to 5 program from the junior high.
So is it legal for them to not come to school during the regular school day for this age that we're talking about, junior high school, and then to only come from 3 to 5?
We're still meeting the regulatory hours, yes.
Okay. How are they getting, I'm just curious, how are they getting PE, art, music, and their electives?
They simply need the number of hours in terms of the core curriculum. So they may not, they're not getting the PE, they're not necessarily getting the art, but for various reasons, these students are not being successful during the course of the day, typically because of, well, frankly, behaviors. And so we bring them in 3 to 5 where they do gain those successes. Sometimes they're receiving outside services, which are geared towards helping them be more successful when they do return. That's the ultimate goal, is to get them to return to the normal school day so that they can be successful and the other students can also be successful. So.
Sure. But somehow you're meeting those requirements because they're graduation requirements. If they don't fulfill those requirements, I don't see how they can graduate.
Yep, we've not had an issue with that for the 3 to 5 program for the high school. And again, with junior high, those are not courses per graduation. So we're hopeful that it's going to be successful in helping these kids. It's a very limited number, turn things around so that they will be successful. And right now, the last one I spoke with, the child's been attending every day, which was without issue, which has been, it's a turnaround. So.
Is there room for outside organizations to support that 3 to 5 program?
In terms of?
Helping with the core curriculum, personnel, space.
That would be a question I'd want to turn over to Mr. Chartrand. He has a very well-oiled machine, and it's also a very tight time frame to get a lot of work done. So I'd want to ask him that. I would not want to speak for him on that one.
It's the 3 to 5 program. It's not necessarily just students with potential discipline issues, though, right? At times, there are students with medical issues that preclude them from being successful during the regular school day, maybe even for a short amount of time, and it provides a space for them to learn and be more successful. Am I correct in?
You are, and in fact, sometimes we're, as we do some of these meetings with the families and staff, surprisingly, I'm actually getting more and more families requesting, do you think the 3 to 5 program might help? And, so families are realizing that this might be the thing to turn their child around and to help them be more successful. And again, you are correct, it can be medical as well. I guess in some ways I look at it as it's kind of that last ditch option, because to not do that, it's not a crack that these kids fall through, it's a chasm. And so this is really that last ditch effort that Massena Central can do. And again, I've sung Mr. Chartrand's praises for many years since I was at BOCES when we shared kids. Somehow he works magic and these kiddos get through, and they end up, many of them are successful. So now we're hoping to replicate that with, again, just a limited number of junior high students. We're going to skip over the local task force update. We'll do that at the next meeting. I do have 2 bus utilization requests, one from PAL for a trip to the Massena Arena, another one from PAL for a trip in April to Lucky Strikes Bowling Alley. We have donations from BJ's Wholesale Club. They donated quite a few cases of bananas that were shipped inadvertently, and they needed to find a home. $500 from Northern Credit Union for the Wishes for Teachers giveaway. That's going to Nightingale. $500 from Massena Savings and Loans, also to Nightingale for the musical. And $300 from Mr. Nagoyan to the Jefferson Student Council. And that concludes my report, unless there are questions.
Okay, that brings us up to recommended actions. We have the consent agenda. If everyone's okay with what's in the consent agenda, can we have an motion?
So moved.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Vote. All in favor? Motion carries. Okay, we have a resolution for capital reserve fund equipment.
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries. Approval of Empower for Improvement contract for 2025-2026.
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries. Approval of MOA with St. Lawrence County Board of Elections.
So move.
All in favor? Motion carries. Approval of bus utilization request from PAL for the Massena Arena.
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Any against? Any abstention? Motion carries. Approval of bus utilization request from PAL, Lucky Strikes Bowling Alley.
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Any abstentions? Guessing that's a yes.
You skipped the negative.
Motion carries. Approval of homeschool student special services request. Sure.
So when a child who is being homeschooled has an IEP and they have special needs, so special services, could be speech, could be OT, PT, they can petition for the board to make that happen, and that's what this is in this case. So.
What is the cost of that? Because if they're not coming to our school, just be curious.
So typically, and I would have to go back on this individual's IEP to see, but I believe it's a half hour. So you take the provider's rate, hourly rate, which is probably going to be somewhere in the $50 or $60 range. So probably about $45 a session would be a ballpark figure. I don't know if I want to go too much beyond that without really looking into exactly how much.
Do we have to do that legally?
Oh, I wish Mrs. Castell was here to answer that question. So Charleston, do you know the answer on that one?
I would think if we have to do this legally, it wouldn't have to be a motion on the
It
agenda.
does have to be a motion. Well, I should say.
If we can vote it down, if we can't vote it down, then it doesn't need to be here.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Can we push it next month?
I will make a recommendation on this one. This is a family that I do believe will be back in our door, back in our buildings, most likely next year. One child is, one child is not. I believe they will be back. So not providing that service is delaying that need. And again, we're going to be dealing with that. That need's not going to go away. So knowing the family situation in this case, I'm fully confident that that child is going to be in building next year. Not providing these remedial services will just compound the issue, and
Is this after hours?
yes.
So is there a chance we could add, what did you say you thought the total cost would be? I mean, just ballpark, $100?
Yeah, it would not, I don't believe it'd be more than $100 per session, and again, depending on what the IEP says, it could be twice a week, could be 3 times a week. I don't believe this one's an everyday.
I feel like I've read policy on it, but I can't cite it. Policy 8470. Yeah,
We don't have a choice.
so it's
Why do we
required.
vote?
Pardon?
Why do we vote?
That was my question. I don't,
It's a requirement of law, I believe.
do we
even-
have to put it on?
Yes, yeah, because the child is not necessarily enrolled in the district, but yet there's a requirement to educate them when it comes to the special services.
Because they live within our district.
Yes, and we are responsible for that IEP.
They live in our,
Yeah, oh yes, this family lives within our district. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And again, I'm
okay.
confident they'll be back next year.
Oh, where were we? Do we have a first and a second?
No?
Okay, can we have a motion?
So moved.
All in favor? Didn't catch that. Is that everybody?
Yep.
Okay. Approval of the State Environmental Quality Review. EA stands off the top of my head, but seeker request resolution.
So moved.
Did we talk about that?
No, and this is, so we hadn't talked about this. This is a formality so we can move the project forward. And basically, this is a class 2 or title 2, I think it's class 2 action. So basically, that we don't have to do any further environmental quality review for this project. So it's not involving wetlands, it's not
Not
involving.
going to impact any ducks.
Yep.
Okay.
Where were we, first, second?
I think we had
Vote.
Dan.
We just need to vote.
All in favor? Motion carries. This approval of the capital project resolution. I need a first and a second before I go roll call, correct?
So moved.
Okay, trustee LeBlanc. Roll call vote, so you have to vote out in the open.
About the capital project for the budget?
The
Capital project.
capital project resolution. So I have to go individually. Your vote, sir.
For the capital project that we're going to present to the voters? Yes.
Mr. Tusa.
Aye.
Yeah.
Mrs. Murphy. Drew. Zach.
Aye.
Kevin's a yes. Approval of election personnel resolution. Can I ask for a motion?
So moved.
Second. First and a second, again, this is a roll call vote. Mr. LeBlanc?
Why is it new? Are we doing roll calls? We used to vote.
It's mandated for these for various reasons.
So-
These two motions.
Because we have a capital project bond resolution out there, our construction attorney has advised that our personnel for this year's vote be done by roll call vote.
Okay. Yeah, yay, for me.
Mr. Tusa?
Aye.
Murphy? Drew? Zach?
Yes.
Kevin's a yes. Approval of paid administrative leave resolution.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries. Mr. Burke?
And I recommend that the board approve personnel items listed as numbers 1 through 60.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries. Any new business?
I just wanted to ask where we were with the Life Track survey.
So I believe that right now, I think he's left on. So I believe right now we're waiting for approval to send out or to somehow get that board communication to them. And once we have that, I know Mr. Oliver was asking where we are with that, so he's chomping at the bit to get into the senior classes to get that done. So if you're okay, because I know we talked, there were a couple of ideas of how to get that there. I think Mr. Oliver's preference is because it's multiple classrooms, it would take multiple days to have one person go, but to have that message canned, ready to go, either through a written communication that he can share with those homeroom teachers, or that we could even do through video, but we'd like to get that going as soon as possible. We could do it as, I don't know if we could do it as soon as next week. I don't know if he has to have a little bit of time, but the sooner I get the approval from the committee. And I think, Ms. Murphy, you've got the language well honed. If you're okay with it, we'll.
Well, do you, I guess I would ask this. So we had discussion about doing in person, and I think what you're saying is that that's kind of impractical because of how it would have to be rolled out. So we had gone back and forth with verbiage. Do you want me to share what we've agreed on as a committee with the full board to find out if they are in agreement, since this is something, and you know, we just did that policy, since it has to be consensus of the board that that's what we are going to go with. And also I wanted to ask about if the senior class advisor would be available to be in the classrooms so that when it's rolled out, if there are questions, that she would act as a representative for the board to answer questions for us.
Yeah, we can certainly ask that. We can also certainly ask for anyone that was on that committee, on this committee that met. And I also don't mind going and, you know, we can spread the wealth, frankly, to get folks into those rooms. As it relates, I think that, I mean, I guess it's really up to the board whether you want the whole board to have, because it is a message that's really just, we're just really trying to explain why we are doing the life track. And it's, and as you know, Isabel and I spoke of, it's, you know, it's nice to get the information this year. What I'm really looking forward to is 5 years from now, because that's really when you start doing that retrospective. Okay, and I'm looking at my life right now. I am where I am. Am I happy about that? And is it because of my high school career? And was I given what I needed to do? And I think if we can explain that, especially to the students, you know, that's why we also want your demographics. We want your personal email. We're not going to sell it to Amazon or to anybody else. We're really just looking for that so we can get back in contact with you, and also that your class officers can get back in contact with you for the 10th year reunion and the 20th reunion, which trying to do that with my own class of 88, it's getting increasingly difficult. So again, that we'd have that database to at least build upon. So if we wait for board consensus, we're waiting until April 29th.
Okay.
And
I think we could, I don't know, and could we agree here? I mean, or could it be via email? This is a board initiative, the goal, and I think the timeline is quite important. And we've had a committee of the board. I know we haven't brought the whole thing back, but our purpose is to connect with the students and let them know that we care what their thoughts are from several different perspectives. Right now, 18 months later, and is it 5 years later?
5 years.
Yeah, I mean, we want you to report back on how did we do or what could we do better. I don't know how else to get it out there. We want to know.
And it's not a catch-22 for our staff. We're not trying to figure out, okay, which teacher did you like, which one? We don't, that's not here nor there. We're really just trying to do the overall program.
How did our education we provided and what you took of it serve you?
Mrs. Murphy, my computer just died. Battery's gone. Do you have that verbiage?
I actually do have it. Do you want me to read it? Do you want me to leave it over here
Let's
for
do it as
people to
can
look
we add
at?
it to a resolution, and add a resolution to accept it? to move it forward right now, we're here.
That'd be helpful.
Very good. Proceed. Got it, Trish?
Yep. Okay, this is what the message would be to the seniors. Some of you may be thinking, why are these school board members here asking us to do a survey? A few years ago, our board got interested in how we could get more feedback from our students about their Massena Central School experience, specifically how it prepared them for life after graduation. We get some information from test scores and graduation rates, but that's only a numerical measure. We're also interested in your thoughts regarding how well we prepared you for life beyond school. We're sure you're thinking about that now, too. Life for you will be changing very soon. The board, we, wanted to know more about how your future self would feel about your MCS experience. To do that, we found a company called LifeTrack that specializes in many types of school surveys, including graduation and follow-up surveys in the future. We thought this might be a great way to get more information to help us better serve future graduating classes. We're asking you to take this survey and provide a long-term email, something that you check at least occasionally, because everyone who works here wants to know how you feel we are doing preparing you for life after high school, and because we all want the best for you. This is really important information because if we can get everyone's input, we may be able to make changes that will impact our school's future, and you can have a say in making that change happen. The Board of Education also wants to show its pride in you and gratitude to you for your efforts here at Massena Central by hosting an informal social gathering with snacks and refreshments at a date to be determined closer to the end of school. Essentially, we just want to celebrate with you, congratulate you, chat with you about your future plans, and wish you well on your journey, wherever that may take you.
Any questions? Can we get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries, even from afar.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other items for new business?
I just had a quick question. The annual budget newsletter we send out, is there going to be capital project information in that budget newsletter this year?
Yeah, in fact, so a couple things with the capital project. Number one, there will be information in that. There will be actually a capital project component. They're working on that now. They're also working on getting the PR materials. So we have scheduled right now, and hopefully Ashley can correct me if I'm wrong, there will be a capital project presentation here in the high school auditorium, I believe at the Louisville Town Hall. Sorry, Louisville Fire Department, thank you. Norfolk Fire Station number 2 or 3, whichever's on 420. I'm sorry, 3? Okay, don't tell them my Norfolk firefighter friends I didn't know. The library, Massena Public Library. Thank you, one at the junior high. And I'll also be presenting to the Rotary sometime mid-April and to Monday Luncheon Club at a date to be determined.
Okay. Are we able to highlight and embolden the taxpayer liability in the project?
Yes. Yeah. That's certainly something I'm going to be talking about extensively.
Thanks.
Why do we go to Norfolk?
It's within our district. It's out on 420. It's still within our district, and it's just a gathering spot out there for the folks that live. Actually, it's near
420, okay.
Yep.
I thought it was 56.
Oh, sorry.
Another item. Last summer, we had a meeting to explore the possibility to expose our student to second language or any opportunities to expose them as a younger age. I couldn't make that meeting. I would like to know where it's at. At the time, it says, no, we can't do nothing. Can we get a status on that?
So to be quite honest, that's pretty much where we've left that at least in terms of the elementary kiddos. Where we are in terms of another language at junior high, and I'm going to point Actually, okay, I got Mrs. Chapman's okay to say it?
Grade 7?
Again, hoping to increase the offerings, especially with Mohawk.
Is there a possibility to, or opportunities, or any ways we can explore exposing our student at a younger age?
So I think we had the meeting, Mrs. Charlson, with staff members, including members from the high school. I think what we kept hearing, and I please, again, correct me if I'm wrong, my memory, and I don't have notes in front of me. There seems to be a larger concern about foreign language at 7th grade, you know, getting that started there, so that we have a stronger sequence getting into the high school. I think the concern that we heard from elementary folks is, when do we build that into our day? And again, I'm seeing the nod from Mrs. Charlson. I'm getting that right?
What about a Raider Academy?
Raider
Academy, could they offer it?
That was something that I was going to mention, and I backed off about Raider Academy. What about delving into some of the people who are there, the teachers, their talents, their skills, kind of like the enrichment clubs that we had at Trinity? Maybe if somebody were proficient in French or Spanish, because I was at that meeting that we had about the languages, and yes, the elementary felt that there just literally wasn't time, that they were taking away 5 minutes here from recess and 5 minutes from specials. They were just simply out of time. But the language, the head of the department, the gentleman, Joe something, really felt that it would be, it would really strengthen his program if we could start languages in 7th grade. And I think he was, of course, thinking more than just, not just Mohawk, more than Mohawk, but, you know, he'd say Spanish, so that it would go 7th, 8th, and then through. I mean, it's wonderful to have Mohawk, any language, of course. But if we could do something in Raider, make it very informal like that,
I think we could benefit.
that would be wonderful. That's a good way to introduce it to the lower grades.
If we could bring it to younger, kindergarten, it'd be even better. Because when you start to be a teenager, you're afraid to talk a different language.
There just wasn't time. I believed them when I was at the meeting. There just wasn't time. There's so many academic demands now.
Sounds like maybe where we need to put our eggs is into investigating how to expand the programming into 7th grade.
Yes, that's a good
It sounds to
start.
me that's what came out of that meeting, so that's probably where we need to veer for now.
And actually, Robert, they spoke about if we could get to 7th grade, perhaps we could start to do 15 minutes here and there in 6th grade and work from the top down instead of working from the bottom up, that was our idea.
Will you explore it for the Raider Academy? To see if you have any, maybe you have teachers that speak Spanish or native? I could offer I taught chess before. I don't know if the kids would be interested in learning the skills. It's something good. I could do that. French. Forgot about that.
Me too.
I could do that.
I did ask a young mom when we were discussing all of this, what would she prefer that her daughter learn, French or Spanish? Because I'm all about the French as well. And she, without hesitation, Spanish. I mean, we think French because we're up here, but we think in the larger picture, Spanish is probably a better option.
Yeah, if you gather a group that's interested in speaking French, I'll go to teach them. Can I? I'm on the board.
As long as you're not paid.
I can resign.
Any other new business? Getting late. Any communications from the public or press? We do not have a need for an anticipated executive session. Can I get a motion for adjournment? All in favor? Very good. Thank you.